Hello.
Hello, how are you, Christine?
I'm good. I'm trying out a new mic. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. I can hear you.
Good. Is it a good volume?
Yes, it's fine. I think it's fine. I've got earphones, so I don't know. I'm still also figuring it out. I'm trying to hide, but I can see that I'm not too successful.
Why are you trying to hide?
Because I've taken a bath and washed my face and everything. It's 9 o'clock here in South Africa, so I'm ready for bed. Not looking fresh and bright like you.
Well, it's okay. I love seeing you either way. I wouldn't know the difference, right?
Oh, you're lying, but thank you very much.
No, I'm not lying. I promise. Hello, everyone. Oh, good, Hazel. I'm glad that you can hear me loud and clear. Trying a new mic, seeing how it works. So yes, please do be honest about how my mic is working, because I'm trying to use a new mic and see if it produces better recordings for the classes. Because my brother-in-law, who is the master at all things technological and sound and audio and all that, he's like, you need to get a better mic. And so anyway, I'm trying to do the best and see if it works right. So, hey, Robert. Nice to see you. Well, welcome everyone. It's 2:02. All right, everybody, tell me what time it is where you're at.
12:02.
12:02. Hi, Darlene. Robert says it's 3, Sharon 3:01, Hazel 3:02, but the opposite 3:02. Awesome. Okay, 3:02 a.m. Awesome. Okay, Manoush, what time is it over there?
Hey everyone, so I'm in Texas right now, so it's 2:03.
Oh, okay. Well, I didn't know you're in Texas. Well,
I know.
Central Time again. It's lovely. I'm in the future, I know. Why are you living in the past, darling? I always say that to my friends who are in Australia and all of that. I'm like, oh, in the future. All right. Well, let's get rolling, shall we? I hope everyone has had an awesome week. Things have been so much better this week. It's been good for me anyway. I just got to tell you about kind of the switch that's happened. I told you last week that I had this transition of rest. Remember this? Well, I have found that my walk has completely changed since then, which is so weird and pretty cool. But I don't think I've ever seen such a drastic change in my relationship with the Lord in a short period of time like this. And so since before the whole you need to rest, he made me, if you guys, I don't know if everyone was on last week, but not this last week, but the one before that, I was going through a whole lot of stuff and the Lord had me resting. He made me rest in the Father, in my spirit, in my soul, and in my body. And it was really actually quite hard for me. And I realized how much I don't rest all the time when this happened because, well, I would constantly be tempted to not rest. And I didn't even realize it's what I was doing, but I'd be slipping back into strategizing and trying to do things, figure things out and all of this stuff. And then my body would start going haywire and I would be like, right, rest. And so then I'd go back to resting. And anyway, it was a very good time. Teresa says she doesn't have sound. But most people here can hear me?
I can hear you.
Hold on one second. Okay, there you go. Hazel said, my week went great, whacked in learning to embrace freedom, and it keeps getting deeper. Even had a lot of resistance, but the Lord made sure he got this, freedom and rest. So good. Well, that's kind of what has been happening with me with the freedom stuff. For a while, he's been really showing me that I need to eat from the tree of life and not from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. And this is something pretty much everyone knows. But I did not know how much I was eating from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. This is something that I was doing a lot, apparently. Without even realizing it, I would step into, I must do this, I need to do this, that sort of bit. If I don't do this, things won't go well. If I do this, things will go well. Or if I do this, I'm doing good. And if I'm doing this, I'm not doing good. I'm doing bad, whatever. That's how I was functioning and not realizing it. But what has happened now is like anytime I'm taking communion, you guys know communion is like a big part of my life. I hope you know that. If you don't, now you know. But huge, every day at least, this is what I do. Anytime I'm slipping back into my fleshly way of thinking or soul, then I engage in communion again. But this week, ever since I have been able to take communion again, because last week when I was told to rest, I couldn't do anything. Like I couldn't repent, I couldn't take communion, I couldn't do anything with the Lord except rest in him, and that's it, which was very unusual for me. But this week, Jesus gave me my throne back. I had abdicated my throne to Jesus to have him rule everything while I was resting. And this week he gave it to me back and I started ruling again. And every time I take communion, instead of, usually I feel his DNA running through me, there's a lot of cleansing that happens. This week, every time I take communion, I am stepping into Jesus, and that's it. So I don't know if this makes sense, but it's like I always see him in front of me, and he usually gives me the cup and all of this, and then our spirits kind of intertwine and entangle. Well, now all I'm doing is simply stepping into his body, and we move together, and everything we do from that point is as one. And this last time I just had such different experiences. I don't know how everyone functions in the spirit here. It seems like everyone has very different experiences. But I didn't even really notice that it was so much like this until this week. Jesus always takes me everywhere. Is anyone like this? I feel like I have to ask because he takes me everywhere. And this week I discovered when I stepped into Jesus, we would then start going everywhere with the Father. And I had never really experienced that before. Jesus would take me to the Father. I'd experience the Father. And there are times, especially in, ruling or anything, that I would be in the Father and we would go and do things together. But I had never had the Father really take me on any kind of adventures or teaching times or anything like that. It has always just been Jesus or one of my angels or something. And so anyway, it was a very brand new experience this week for me. And I got to experience a lot of things from the Father's perspective. And that has been really wonderful and different for me. So anyway, I would love to tell you about it, but it's some really wacky stuff. Okay, some of you guys like wacky stuff, but this is like weirder than I've ever experienced. It's pretty cool, but different. So anyway, I see, let's see, Hazel said, yeah, literally felt the stretching, but it's not heavy and hard, but literally his yoke that is easy and light because we choose to be led by him. Like finally we let go of our own ways and just let him do his job, and it's so liberating, and I felt so light. That is precisely what I went through in my resting time. Exactly like that. Wow. Darlene said, please share with us some of the weird experiences with him. Farrah said, I want to hear your experience, Christine. Hazel said, speaking of communion, when I started to take it like 3 times a day, I'm like laughing all the time. Joy filled me up. That's awesome. All right. If you guys have half the people leave the mentoring group because to tell my experience, I'm blaming on you. So this last, I don't know when it was, a couple days ago maybe. So I took communion. Just exactly what happened where I stepped into Jesus, and then Jesus and I just went and wrapped I say Jesus and I, it's as if we're one. So it happened at the same time in the same body, if that makes sense. But we wrapped our arms around the Father's neck in this great embrace. And then the Father like rocketed us up real fast. So thankfully we were holding on to his neck. And so, but that wasn't the plan. It was just a hug at the beginning. And so anyway, when he rocketed us up, he took us through these different galaxies and onto this planet. And I have no idea where we were, somewhere that I didn't know existed. And we were on this planet, and the Father was showing me everything he loved. And it was on this planet, okay? Not everything he loved in the universe, just on this planet, the things he really loved. And he was showing me his favorite thing to eat. And it was this little tiny thing that was like, it looked kind of like a pomegranate seed, but it was round. And he put it in his mouth, and we took them too. And it was like super juicy and wonderful. It was amazing tasting. And I was like, wow, this is really good. And he was just showing his pleasure. And then he said, oh, let me show you my favorite being. And there was this it was like the size of a bug. But it was this little guy. And this little guy was really hairy, kind of like I don't know what I imagine, like in all these TV, okay, I have kids, so I watch these kid TV shows all the time, but like in Trolls or something like that, where they're like hairy and I don't know, just animated kind of, well, anyway, these little things they were very hairy little beings. And Father picked it up, and this little being, it had the same kind of, it wasn't speaking like we would speak. It was acting like an animal, like kind of like a dog would act or something, that was friendly and loving, but not really, I don't know, talking and thinking like, I don't know if this makes sense. Anyway, but then the Father said, no, we put them on our nose and then we pet them here. And so we were putting these little beings on our nose and petting the beings on our nose. And it was so weird. He was just showing, and it was cute. And the thing was, I could feel the Father's love. I felt the same Father's love. Like the love that the Father had for these creatures kind of transferred to me. And the Lord just said to me, he said, you are a lover of galaxies. And I understood what he told me this before, but I didn't really, I was like, okay, I don't know. I don't really see myself like this. But when he said this to me in this particular circumstance, I understood that it wasn't just the lover of creating things or the creation or anything like that. It was the individual parts of everything he's created. You know, like I love all the things that he loves in all of the galaxies, the creative things. Now, I don't know of all those things yet, but I know I love them like he does. And yeah, anyway, Hazel said, especially when God is showing you something like whack your mind, you just tend to laugh, and the Father laughs all the time. You know, it's so funny. I don't ever experience that. Everybody else does, but I don't really laugh a lot in the heavenlies. You would think I would, but because I kind of laugh a lot here, but I don't really laugh a lot in the heavenlies. Everything seems a little more serious, I guess. I see all these people who are laughing and playing when I'm engaging with them, and it's so funny to me to see, because that's not how I experience the Lord at all on my own. And I'm not jealous of that or anything. I feel like all my experiences are really rich with him. It's just different. So anyway, but that's cool that he does that with you. Hazel said, wow, what you're saying, I just listened to Justin Abraham's teaching. He says God showed him creatures that only God would love. No, apparently I love them too, okay? Yes, maybe only God would love them, except he does create us to love what he loves as well. So anyway, they are pretty cool. I mean, I really believe that so much of what he's created, there's so much more than we see on this earth. And I don't know that I ever really knew that before I was engaging in heaven. I kind of had a very selfish, I don't know if selfish is the right word, but self-involved earth. Like, this is it. Everything else, I don't know what it's for. That's what I kind of was feeling before I ever engaged in heaven. But since then, he showed me so much more about creating with him and creation and all these things that he's made, and how there really are beings and things on other planets, and how he's made us to love them and rule them too. And that's something that I'll tell you, I had friends who are Mormon, and they had these ideas of like ruling these other planets and things, and I thought they were crazy. I did. I totally thought they're nuts. And still, some of what they believe might be. But I'm just going to say that part is true. I don't know if it's true how they say it's true. They're talking about always creating spirit babies and things. I've never had any sort of experience like that. But it is true about having different planets that we rule. And so anyway, it's very interesting. Darlene, what were you saying? I believe that will come in time, Christine. Oh, the laughing part, is that what you mean? I don't know. Your season to be whacked. I don't get whacked either, but it isn't my season yet. You know what? It might be, but it might not be. I don't know, because the Lord has just created me differently, I think. I have different roles in the heavenly realms than a lot of people do. And I think what I'm created for might be different. That's what I think. And not better or worse, just different. Hazel said, ha ha ha, because we tend to look like on all beautiful stuff, there are creatures that it may look ugly for us, but for him, it's all beautiful and all. I think that's true. Darlene said, I had the thought that you would be just saying, okay, well, it's possible. I won't say no. So whatever he wants. I have seen, after talking to you guys, and some people sent me some private messages about the whole being slain in the spirit thing. This has come up a lot lately for some reason in my life. And I have had some confirmation now, knowing that I have, what's been happening to me is being slain in the spirit. It's just not happening where everyone else it happens for. So everybody else, it's happening when some amazing person comes to speak, and then there's this great worship and everyone's together. And this is just not happening with me. It's happening like in my, prayer closet, if that makes sense. I don't literally have a prayer closet, but you understand what I'm saying. I think it's just happening in my personal walk and not in the corporate way like it does for a lot of people. And I wonder if a lot of people, it happens in their personal walk, but they just fall asleep. I don't know if this is true, but I kind of wonder if this is true, because a lot of people have great experiences and then fall asleep. And I wonder if they're being slain in the spirit and then feel guilty about falling asleep. I don't know. That's just a theory. I have no idea. Laurel said, thinking of a platypus, like the things that only God would love, sort of things that are so strange. Yes. Robert said, at first I thought you were describing Ewoks from Star Wars. Kind of looking like that. Maybe not quite as hairy, but hairy like that kind of. Then you said you put them on your nose. I don't know what Enoch. Okay, here's the thing. Ewoks, I mean, not Enochs. I watched Star Wars years and years and years ago, and I kind of hated it. Everyone here will hate me because everyone loves Star Wars but me. My husband and my son and my girls, they all even watch Star Wars, not me. So I don't know. Darlene said, OMG, sometimes when I spend time with him, I fall asleep like last night. Yeah, what if you were being slain in the spirit? Laurel says, alpaca faces look like Ewoks. Darlene says, Justin says the era of Star Wars has ended. I don't know. We'll see. That's funny. All right. So there's my weird experiences. I have a lot more experiences that are always strange, but I don't know. The Lord's just been doing some very different sort of things and kind of showing me a different part of him and myself. And in doing that, then he's showing me more heavenly kind of experiences that are different too. And so I don't know. I'm really interested to see what happens in the next even 5 years. My family has been coming up with this. Well, I can't say coming up with this plan. The Lord has released this plan for my family, and they call it the 5-year plan. And it's so hard for me to wrap my mind around, because to everyone else, 5 years seems like a very short amount of time. But for me, it seems like a really, really long time. I mean, can you guys believe, some of you, okay, let's see, like, I don't know who's been on here with me the longest, probably Stephanie or Hazel. But we've only known each other like a couple years. Can you believe this? Has it even been that long? I think it might have been a year. And it feels like so long. It feels like a whole lot longer than that. And I cannot imagine 5 years where we're going to be in the spirit. That's what I can't wrap my mind around, because we're all growing so quickly that it feels like a lifetime. It surely, I mean, it really does. I don't know if you guys feel this way, but it feels like a lot longer. Hazel, okay, said, ha ha ha, it's funny because I'm skeptical on how that works. I thought a pastor would just push people to get slain, but since I had experienced it, I repented of being judgmental. Darlene said, Justin meant spiritually speaking. That makes sense. Hazel said, yeah, probably nearly 2 years. I don't know if it's been that long. Hazel, were you in my intro class? Is that how I met you? Do you remember? Okay, the reason I'm asking, you'll have to answer that question in a bit, but the reason I'm asking is because I only did my very first intro class like a year ago, March. So it has not been very long. So it would have been April or something. And so that's like a year. I can't believe that. It feels like I've been doing that for a long time. And then, yeah, I don't know. This is just wild. I can't believe it's been not very long. It seems like a whole lot longer. But anyway, it doesn't matter that much. I was just saying, I think that we're about to experience so much more spiritually than we have been, and things, how the Lord is governing the time. He's just being so gracious to us. He's making these brand new relationships that can get really deep very quickly. And then we are connected in the spirit. We're able to do a lot more in the spirit. We're able to rule and reign a lot faster than ever before, even though it seems slow to us. To us, it might seem like, oh my goodness, am I ever going to get there? But what's happening is a year later, we're off in crazy world, petting little animals from other planets on our nose. It's weird. These things, we wouldn't guess that would be happening. And then, Hazel said, but I stumbled first on your video on YouTube from mobile core activation, and I searched you on Facebook. Okay, that is probably, I think I didn't meet you earlier because of that. Yeah, anyway, crazy. It's amazing how this has happened. But I was just thinking back to how many. Go ahead, Awika.
Sorry, you're talking about growing and everything. What happens to me is sometimes just when I thought, or just when I think, okay, I think I know a lot of stuff now. I think I'm almost there. Then something happened, and it feels like I'm right back again, because I actually had a funny week the same time that you did. What happened is I saw a friend, which I saw years ago. And it's funny, I didn't want to meet with them for coffee, even though they're wonderful people. But I was studying with her, and she said she's going to study further and I must join her. And I said, no, I'm done now. I'm going to have kids now. And she went on and got her master's and then her doctorate and the whole thing. And I didn't. And I think with this book, I'm not supposed to, things like that shouldn't floor me anymore. That's actually part of why I joined this walk. I don't want earthly things like that to floor me, but it was like it really became like an attack, a real attack on my identity. And I didn't think that things like that will have that effect on me anymore. And then it was kind of the whole week went like that. And then this morning, and I can't say that anything really happened. It wasn't as if I listened to any teaching or anything like that. But this morning, I just woke up with this revelation. And it's actually, I think you guys will think it's very basic, but to me, it was a huge revelation. And it was about identity. I woke up and this was the first thought. I thought, there must be something about this identity thing, because everything that I see or listen or talks about identity. And I just suddenly realized that if I know who I am, you have to know who you are, and then you can step into that place of rest, and then you can just really relax. And I just thought, because I'm having this thing with the angels, it was new to me and different, and I didn't understand, didn't know that you can engage with them. I thought all my life that that's something only the Lord can do. He can tell them and give them assignments. So it was new to me. And I just suddenly realized, you know what? I know who I am. So I'm going to go into rest with the Father, and I'm going to ask them to figure out all the things that I'm struggling with, that I'm worrying about. And I don't know if it's true, but maybe I thought it out myself, but maybe you can help me. But I just thought that if he said, I can remember when you were here in South Africa, you said that you can see them sitting ready, waiting for us to give them assignments. And then I thought, well, then I'm going to do it. If they're there and they want to, I'm going to make use of that. And I asked for my 2 daughters. I actually asked for angels, like they would be like as if it's a finishing school, to help them with stuff like socializing and everything. But it was just after this week that I was struggling with this whole, identity thing, and almost like a low self-esteem. And I never had something like that. it was so wonderful to realize, you know what, I can actually just sit on that throne. It almost sounds too good to be true. Sit on that throne and let them do the work. They want to. They're much more equipped than I am. So, yeah, it was just this wonderful revelation, but I think you guys are all past that now. It's such a basic thing, but I finally got it. I get it now.
Well, you know what? Now correct me if I'm wrong, people, but I don't know that anybody gets past the identity thing. And the reason I say this is because, at least in my walk, I have certain pieces that have been revealed to me that I've fully accepted. And then other things that I'm like, I don't really get that yet. And this is how it's been for me for a long time. And it's just a little more and more and more along the way that he will release to me. And it takes me even a while to step into the fullness of all of it. And a lot of times I'm even walking by faith, having no real idea what I'm doing. And then later he shows me I don't know how to say, the greatness of it. And I'm like, oh my goodness, I had no idea. I mean, I'll tell you, there's this, maybe some of you know this, I don't know, but there was one time that we were engaging in this group, and he showed me that there was this fountain in front of the Father's house. Many of you have been there before. And that I was supposed to get these new garments out of the fountain to give to people before they go into the Father's house. And he told me that this is like one of my jobs in heaven. And I'm thinking, okay, so I get garments out for people. To me, it's like telling the pastor to go be a greeter. You know what I mean? That's what it felt like. And I was like, okay, I'll just do whatever you say because you know best. And so here I am. Every time he led me to do it a lot with people is, okay, come. And different things happened in the fountain, this washing and all sorts of stuff with people, and even baptism and things. But my job was to get the garments out of the fountain and put them on the people. And the whole time I thought it was just kind of lame job, but I'll be obedient and do it. Later on, he showed me that this was actually a quite important job of the high priest. And I had no idea. I did not understand that that's why he was having me do it. It's because he wanted to show me that I was high priest. And I did not get it. I thought I was the lowest of the low, and that's why I was doing it. And it's because I didn't fully understand my identity. I wasn't ready to understand that part of my identity. Do you know what I mean? And we all have this identity supply that's attached to our identity. And half the time we don't know our identity, so we can't have access to the supply attached to it in order to fulfill our destiny. And the enemy, I have seen this recently. I've noticed that every attack on everyone has to do with their identity. It's about pulling them out of their identity and destiny. Think of any attack that happens to you. It's all taking you back to whatever, I'm worthless, I don't have anything I need, blah, blah, blah. I mean, it's always about who you are. And the enemy knows that everything's attached to our identity. Anyway, it's just amazing. There are things that I fully grasp and understand about my identity, and I walk in easily out of that seat of rest. And then there are other things that I just don't get. Even like this last, like I told you, how he had already told me before, I'm a lover of galaxies. I didn't understand that. That didn't make any sense to me. I was just like, okay, whatever you say. And that's it. I didn't get it. And then he started showing me what he really meant. And then I'm like, oh, I am that person. You know, that is me. And so now I can feel like okay about all these weird galaxy experiences that he gives me all the time. Because, you know, it's very strange. And it's hard for me to talk about those things a lot of times because, you know, who in the church talks about, you know, experiencing galaxies or eating galaxies or creating galaxies or, you know, all of these things that I've experienced? It just seems so strange. And so a lot of times we hide because we don't really want to embrace our identity, because we think that we'll be shunned for our real identity. And so then we feel guilty of those who are walking in an identity that we wish we had, you know, just like what you were saying about the lady who went on to get her master's and doctorate and all that. You know, you have a tendency to go, oh man, why didn't I do that? And then you start kind of getting this, they're better than me. Their identity's cooler, you know, they have more money, they've more accomplished, whatever it is. And you have such a special identity that is far beyond any of those things. And so those are the things that you have to just allow him to place in you, walk them out as best you can, even if it's like an infant, and just walk that out until he places more on you and shows you more revelation about it. And you'll realize that you've been walking further than you thought you have. And that's the exciting part, I think. Okay, so Hazel said, yeah, we keep on discovering and learning on our journey. I've had stuff that I kept on relearning and still uncovering. Same. Fair said, yes. Laurel said, sometimes he has me read certain scripture out loud. He said to me, you are the voice of the Lord on the earth. Wow. Darlene said, I thought Ian Clayton was crazy when he said he created galaxies. Now I don't think so. I don't know that I ever thought he was crazy. I think I thought, wow, I will never get to that place. That's what I thought. Not even probably a few weeks later after that, that's when the Lord started doing weird stuff with galaxies with me. And I thought, no way. It still felt so beyond me, even when I was experiencing it. Laurel said, he showed me in Jeremiah 13 that he called me to be as close to him as his underwear. The clean linen cloth. That's awesome. That's really funny. Cool. So anybody else have anything to share? Hazel said, no. Laurel said, that's a very important job. Yes. Hazel said, yeah, realizing how vast the universe of God would tell us to create it's not impossible, because I think there's still a lot of creating to do. Yeah, you know, I have a theory. I don't know if it's right or not, but I really feel like it is. In my spirit, I feel like this is true. One, I know God is still creating. I've had people argue with me saying he's not still creating. Creating is done. Well, I don't know where people think that. One, that doesn't make sense scientifically. If you ask anybody, everything's still being created. But if you're experiencing anything in the heavenly realms like that, you know he's still creating all the time. And so this is why I don't think we will ever be able to experience all of creation or everything, because it keeps expanding and he keeps creating all the time. So we will have infinity to experience more and more and more. It will never get boring because there's still creating being done all the time. So anyway, that's my theory, just because everything I've seen in him. Look, infinity, like it. Cool. I really think that that's true. It's just continually going. And I don't think there will ever be an end. I'm sorry, I had a weird swallowing thing. Stephanie said, had a few flying in universe experiences. Isn't that fun? It's really wild. You want to share?
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes.
Okay, it was some years ago. We were like soaking, and then I just saw all these colors of the universe, like all these colors, like purples and pinks and blues. And I was just flying through the galaxy, like kind of seeing all these amazing colors. Yeah.
I never see all these colors like you do.
I see a lot of vision. I see everything in vision. Like now there's a situation with Martin and Saskia, because I have to go.
Oh.
And then like a kind of a miracle happened because God told me that I have to release them.
Uh-huh.
And then he was upset that you're throwing me out, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just praying, and I just could just pray. And then I was just laying the whole week and praying. And then I felt to conduct an African pastor, and I told a story about him. And she said to me, then she wrote to me like, "Can they pick berries?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And then I went to the church today, and she said at the same moment, like somebody from middle of Finland wrote to her like, "I need some Europeans to come and pick up berries here." Yeah. And at the same moment, and she said, "I don't know anybody, and these Africans, they don't come there." And then the same moment that she had got the message, I sent her the text message. You know that. So basically, I think there's a way opening for them now to go to the countryside when I leave next week, and they can go and rest and work, and they get food, because they're gonna be homeless otherwise.
Yay.
It's like God showed me that this man, like, that he's gonna like have like two wings, like protecting them. That he's gonna be like a father for them.
That's so cool.
No? But I have been like, but yeah, they're also working in faith, you know.
Yes. Very cool. That's awesome.
I see a lot in the visions, everything like answers. Because I'm going through a lot of battles and a lot of very difficult situations. And I see things from the spirit, like how God sees them. And in the natural, you're just like, oh, how is ever going to get better? He gives the answers in the spirit. It's amazing.
Yes, this is why we're supposed to be engaging there and not here, is because here we will get overwhelmed and all of that, but we're supposed to keep our eyes focused on the heavenly things. And so what you're doing by seeing all of that that's how you get through it. He will give you the healing you need if you engage in that place. He will give you the rest you need when you engage in that. And how you see so clearly, that's just such a gift from God. It's beautiful.
But I fall in trances, in deep, deep sleeps. Mm-hmm. Like yesterday, I prayed we were in the spirit with a friend of mine here, mm-hmm. and she's going through a hard time. And then I saw this amazing, like, vision of Jesus and her. She was in a white dress with a tiara, and the white dress sparkled. And Jesus had these amazing eyes, and he looked at her with love. And then I just told her, like, Jesus is calling you to become more intimate, like just to be in love with him. And she was like, whoa. It was like the anointing that came on that moment. I can't describe it. So it's just like, wow.
That's awesome. Cool. Well, I see, Alika, that you said thank you for the chart of the 7 spirits that you posted. You're welcome. I was wondering if maybe you have a chart of the tribes. I sometimes see a specific color when we engage and wonder if it's pointing to a specific tribe. Also wondering if different tribes mean different things. I don't have a chart of that, but I have kind of a list of that stuff. That actually, another guy who is on our group, he's the one who sent it to me, and it has seemed fairly accurate. I will say that it isn't something that has been revelation I personally have received, and so I'm not going to pretend like it is. But I will, I'll post that for you guys on the group if you'd like, on that group page, because I think it has been really helpful to people in recognizing a lot more of who they are, their identity that is attached to the 12 tribes of Israel. So anyway, hopefully it will be helpful to you. And I will say this, if you don't feel like it's accurate, just put it on the shelf. Don't worry about it. Don't engage it. That's kind of what I do with everything. So if it's not direct revelation from the Lord to me, then I have a hard time just trusting it as complete truth. I hope everyone else is the same. I believe that's how we're supposed to be. And it doesn't mean that we don't trust the people it comes from. But we need to always be testing everything and making sure that it's revelation for us and not just for them. So anyway. Hazel said, yeah, lately the song from Aladdin, A Whole New World. I relate to it as the song of the Father for us. That's cool. Yeah. All right, cool. So, anybody else have any experiences they'd like to share, either about what's been going on with them and what the Lord's been teaching you, or perhaps other things about the galaxies? Manoush, go ahead.
Hello, everyone. So I just wanted to give just something quick. So as I was traveling and I had closed my eyes, I seen like purple glitter, which was different from me. It was just like it was kind of like oozing down. So I'm not sure exactly if anyone has ever experienced that, but that's something new that I've seen.
I personally have not experienced that before. I'm going to guess Stephanie has. Oh, Stephanie said, been lately seeing golden liquid. Yeah, I haven't seen the purple sparkles, or not sparkles, but glitter kind of stuff before, but those things aren't terribly
I
uncommon.
once woke up.
Go ahead.
Sorry, but I once woke up like some years ago, and I had like purple, like blue glitter all over me on my chest. And I was like,
Mm.
what is this? And I was trying to think, like, where is this coming from? There's no makeup here, like this or that. And then it dropped on the bathroom, like, floor because it was so much. And I tried to really reason it away, but then I just had to believe it. Like, there's some healing angel who passed by
Mhm.
and dropped some glitter.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's funny you say that, because now that you're saying that, I remembered how at the source, we keep having all of this. It looks like glitter everywhere, and it's really everywhere. In fact, it's been a little, I don't want to say annoying, but a little bit annoying because you have to clean it up. And it's, I don't know. We are trying to figure out, is this really gold dust? We haven't had any of it tested or anything like that. We're just constantly getting it off of all of the floors and the pews and all of everything, because it's coming all the time. And we aren't having weddings there recently. And so it's not like we're having a bunch of glitter going on anywhere. So anyway, I don't know. It might be something like that. Are you seeing this in the spirit or in the physical, Manish?
This was in the spirit. Like I just closed my eyes and I seen it. I just saw it. As soon as I like opened my eyes, but actually I was kind of partially falling asleep, and
Uh-huh.
then I seen it. And as soon as I opened my eyes, I just started kind of like laughing, because for me, I've been told that, and I've also kind of researched purple to mean authority, or because that's something that I guess kings do, color kings used to wear and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, when I think about glitter, I'm like, okay, glitter can get everywhere. So, but I kept asking God and the Holy Spirit, like, okay, what does this mean? Because I'd never seen that before, and I know that it was not a figment of my imagination. So I'm just,
Yeah,
asking him
sure.
more information about it.
Well, I'll tell you this much. I have seen obviously a lot of different colors for me, and it might just be because of who I am and what's been going on with me, but I interact with the seven spirits a lot. And so I think that's why a lot of times when the colors come, it represents one of the seven spirits to me. And it's because I'm always interacting with them. But that doesn't mean it's like that for everyone. But like purple is the spirit of the fear of the Lord. And that I've seen lots and lots of people who have, who are like sprinkling glitter everywhere over their mountains and things. And that really is like, just like what you said, how it's kind of can get everywhere. And it's these tiny pieces that carries the fullness. You know what I mean? And that,
Mm-hmm.
I believe that is what happens most of the time to people. I don't know if that's what's happening to you, but probably, especially you said about the authority. I do think that that's important with that. I see Hazel said, yeah, the seven spirits has colors too. Robert says, in relationship, I grow in identity and learn to enforce identity in my life. Example, birthrights. Then when I realize my identity, I experience more in the heavenlies. The greatest identity for me is to realize that I'm loved. That's cool. Well, I
And
hope.
also, I wanted
Yeah,
to
go
add
ahead.
something.
Go ahead. Sorry.
I wanted to say that as you were talking, for some reason, I think about glitter also. I think about fun. Like, to me, glitter is, it's supposed to be a fun particle type of, thing that we use.
Uh-huh.
So, I don't know. That's just kind of what I think about it also. It's supposed to be a fun thing. So, we'll see.
That's cool. That's cool. Let's see if you experience it again when we engage today. That'd be awesome. Fair says, I have a question. Does the spirit of counsel provide insight into people's problems with me verbally asking what's the source of their issue? I think it definitely can. My experience with the spirit of counsel is that it's often they're helping to basically get people into understanding their identity, authority, all of these things. So having them reveal the problems and stuff, that could be, I don't know that for sure. You just have to say, hey, is this what's happening? That's probably what I would do. Laurel says, glitter can mean glory, and the glory of the Lord is risen upon you. That's cool. Darlene says, can't you just leave the glitter alone? What are you talking about? And then Fair said, without, okay, let me see. What's the source? Without, wait, I don't know. What did you mean by that? Fair, can you unmute? Go ahead, Fair.
Absolutely. Hello, guys.
Hi.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
All right. All right. So I had an encounter to where it appeared to where the spirit of counsel was wrapping itself around me. I was like, what's going on? It's like he was, I don't know if it has a gender, but it was connecting to me. And so after that, I have noticed as I'm speaking to people, sometimes I'll hear the root cause of the problem and of their issue. And it's just very weird. I was at the shoe store and I was just purchasing some shoes that was on clearance. Anywho, and this woman was talking about her medical problem, and just she was just going on and on and on and on. And then all of a sudden, I hear the root cause, and I'm like, okay, but what am I to do with this information? So I was wondering if that was the spirit of counsel.
Yeah. Yes, I do. I'm sorry, I was on mute and I was trying to get it unmuted. Yeah, I understand. I guess I don't know for sure. I don't know for sure if that was the spirit of counsel or not. But if you feel like it is, it probably is, because generally when we have that kind of inkling, you know what I mean? That thing that says, I think this might be it, and it generally is. But I don't know if that's for sure what was happening or not. I do know the spirit of counsel comes along a lot like that to help, but yeah, I just couldn't tell you for sure. So I don't know. Does anyone else have any insight that they think?
It's the oddest thing.
Why does it seem so odd?
I mean, I'm a friendly person, and so I speak to people, talk, and just have a good time. But then, for some reason, they start just unloading some problems, some medical stuff or something, and then as they're talking, I'll hear, "This is the root. That is the root," and I'm like, "Okay, but I don't know what I don't know what to do with this information, Lord." So I think to myself, I don't know, like how to handle this. So I just,
well, I'll tell you.
Say, well, I'm sorry.
Who is that? Tracy, I'm muting you.
Oh, sorry.
So Fair, let me read what the spirit of counsel, what it says about the spirit of counsel, and see if this is helpful or not. It says the spirit of counsel prepares us for position, teaches us how to access the counsel of God, resolve issues, commune with God. It teaches us about the function in the council chambers of God, his advisors, the Trinity, and their role in our life, and teaches us how to rule in the process of rulership. Yeah, I see this. Hazel said, I think that's a word of knowledge, and perhaps the spirit of counsel is also giving you. Darlene says word of knowledge. I know that this happens to me a lot, and I don't know the spirit of counsel because I think this has been happening to me for a long time. I have the same sort of experiences. I'll come across people I've never met before. They're pour out their whole life story to me. It's just, in fact, I had a friend who always said that I'm too approachable, that everybody just comes to me constantly. And this happens to me all the time. And usually the Lord does give me, I don't think he gives me a word of knowledge about it a lot in those circumstances. Generally, he gives me a word of wisdom. And so it is the wisdom that is coming from the Lord that is what really ministers to them in those moments. Now, maybe not obvious to you, but in my life, he gives me words of knowledge all the time. That's something that's very common, to know things about people, what they're going through, the sin in their life, that sort of thing. That happens to me a lot, but it doesn't actually often happen to me in those circumstances. Usually it's just the love that comes across and then the wisdom that comes through that. So I don't know if that's helpful, but that's what happens to me a lot. And so it could be that you are.
It is.
Go ahead.
It's helpful because I'm not the only one. Not the only one who's experienced it. It's so odd.
Yeah, I always thought it was really weird myself because I'll go to the grocery store with other people and they seem to just go grocery shopping. It's amazing. They go and they pick out their stuff and they go check out and they leave. And I'm like, how does this happen? This never happens to me. Every time I go to the store, there's going to be somebody in an aisle who somehow bumps into me and starts telling me their whole life. And then at the grocery store at the counter, the lady behind there is going to tell me how much she hates her job and how long she's been working and then why she's doing it. And it just turns into a big session. Yes. And this happens every time. And I've never understood why me. Like, how come it's not the people who are with me? It's always me. And counselor anointing, Laurel says. That's awesome. Well, I don't know. I've also seen just a simple physical thing that the Lord has shown me that this is another reason people do this. When I was young, my mom made a real big emphasis on making eye contact with people. And she would always tell me to do this. And so since I was young, I have always been very favored in classes. I went to public school. I was always very favored, and I know it was because I made eye contact all the time. And I have trouble not making eye contact now. Even if I'm in a big funk, I don't want anybody to talk to me. I go to the store, I try really hard to not look at people, and I just can't not look at them. And so, in fact, it's so funny because I don't know if it was the last time or a couple times I was traveling, when I'm flying and I'm in airports, I make friends with everybody. That's what happens. Even if I want to be alone, it doesn't matter. And but the Lord told me, do not look at people and don't engage with people. Don't talk to them. It was so hard. I couldn't do it. I honestly couldn't do it. And so I ended up buying sunglasses so no one would know if I was looking at them, because I can't not look at people. And that is what has drawn people to me, has been me looking at them and making eye contact and smiling. And I, can't help but do that. And so anyway, I do think it might have to do with that. Just think about yourself. Do you make eye contact constantly? Because that's probably part of it too, which could be a gift from the Lord.
I do. A lot of people say you just look friendly. I'm like, okay.
That's
so
a good thing.
Several friends in grocery stores and shopping malls.
Yes. Yes, it's so funny. Robert says, I get words that direct how to intercede for some people. I speak it only if God tells me to. When it is for intercession and I speak it early, most people cannot receive it. And I speak it early. Oh, when you Oh, I see. When it's for intercession and I speak it early, like you're not supposed to speak it or speak it yet, then people can't receive it. And then Hazel said, as we become close to Jesus, we become like him. And we really see and hear like even we don't intend to, but this is for the purpose of ministering or for intercession. And Laurel said, discernment makes people feel like you can see into their soul, even if you don't have revelation about them. Then they spill it. This happens. Tracy, go ahead. Tracy. Okay, maybe because I muted you. Okay, I'm trying to unmute.
Oh, there we go. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Can you hear me now? Okay,
Yes.
sorry. We're working on our house, so I apologize
That's okay.
for the pounding. Yeah, that happens to me all the time. We've had kind of a ministry with my daughter's friends, you know, and they just come over and they spill everything to me. And you know, you don't even have to ask. It just comes out of their mouth, and all the bad. And, you know, we're light, and deep inside of them, they might not know Jesus yet, but they want that. They're attracted to that. And it's just part of it. I kind of love it though.
That's awesome. I sometimes love it and I sometimes hate it. I'm being completely transparent. This is,
I probably don't get it as much as you do though.
I don't know. Maybe that's probably true. It happens all the time to me, and has for so long that, and here's the other thing, I'm not an extrovert. And so because I'm an introvert, I have this need to like not people, you know what I mean? Like get out of the way
Yeah.
of being around people. And so I think that's part of my frustration too, is when I feel really exhausted, I don't really want people to tell me their whole life story and have to be on, you know, and I know we should always be on, but I'm not always in the mood. And so this is me being totally me, but that's true.
Yeah.
So, anyway. All right, Aaron Michael, go ahead.
Okay, so I was just going to say that, like, yes, the exact same thing that happens to me all the time. Literally, like, I remembered about group today only because we read it yesterday. And, but literally the reason I'm late is because I was at the hotel and I went down into the lobby to talk, to get, like, a new room key because we had to extend our stay by a day, and so we had to get new room keys. And I stayed down there for 2 hours talking to this woman about all of this stuff, about, you know, her brother who's dealing with this stuff, about, like, is exorcism real, about, like, you know, like, Hebrew custom, like, all of this stuff. And, like, she's just pouring her heart out. She's like, thank you so much for coming down here. All of the puzzle pieces, everything's coming together now. It all makes sense and everything. And I was like, yep, right on. And literally, I've literally been on dates, and all of a sudden, this person is pouring out all of this stuff. I'm like, whoa, this is not first date stuff, but good to know. You know, like, I had this guy literally confess all of this weird stuff to me. I'm like, well, I'm glad I heard that, you know, but it was like, people don't do that on first dates. And he was like, he even said, this is weird. I don't know why I just told you all that stuff. It was like, I had to tell you. And I was like, yeah, you did. But like, and also I do that too. I make eye contact with people. I've literally had people after like a church service or after a seminar or something come to me afterward and say, it's incredible to have people like you in the audience who are making eye contact. Because most people are like, oh, I don't want to look at the person because that's weird. And I'm literally like, like in their eyes, like, I want to know everything you're saying. And so, yeah, that was just my 2 cents on that.
That's good. That's cool. Laurel says, I don't know about labeling people as introverts or extroverts, but some people are called to set apartness, to not be like the rest, as the Levites were from the other tribes. Well, I'll tell you, I've learned a lot about people's personality types, and especially when it comes to the soul. By the way, when I'm talking about that, I'm totally talking about the soul. But there is a reality, I believe, that some people gain energy by being around other people, and other people get drained by being around other people, and gain energy by being alone and recharging. And that is, some people really, they can, if they go into a big group of people, it just really re-energizes them, because that's how they're supposed to function. And then there are others who they gain the energy by going back and recharging. So you can see me, a lot of people think extrovert means I'm outgoing and introvert means I'm shy. Well, I'm not shy. That's not what I mean. So I'm not a shy person. Obviously, you guys have seen, like, I can get up on a stage and preach and not freak out, okay? That's not because I'm an extrovert or an introvert. It's because that's what I'm called to do. And so when I do that, I'm working in the spirit. But then afterwards, that's very draining for me generally after I do that. So I go and I need to be myself for a little bit, just to let the Lord recharge me and give me my energy back. So anyway, that's really what I mean. And I'm not trying to be a labeler, because I think that we all do. I, for a long time, would label people, and not in a way I felt like was judgmental. It was just something that I tried to do to help understand how to help people better and really relate to them and all of that, and not think that they're terrible because they're different than me and that sort of thing. And so I did that for a long time, but I realized after a while that what I was really doing, I was just seeing their soul, and I wasn't really seeing their spirit. And so there is a difference between looking at how the soul functions and looking at how the spirit functions. So Laurel says, I believe we can change. I was introverted before Yeshua changed me. I believe that too. I mean, I think we can all change. A lot of people in the psychology world say you don't really change after like 6 years old. Well, I don't really believe that. I know that I've changed. And so I've seen a huge change in how I am. I used to be very extroverted, actually. That was something. I also was a sensor to the extreme. Now I'm very much an intuitive. There are things that are totally different about me. But also a lot of the things that my soul is not how my spirit is. I'm a super feeler in the soul, but I'm not in the spirit. In the spirit, though I can feel things, I don't function by, oh no, how am I going to make somebody feel? I don't do that in the spirit. In the spirit, I go, what can I do to fix the situation as a ruler? Because that's who I am, and the spirit is like that. And so I just function totally differently, which is interesting. My sister is total thinker in the soul. She never is ruled by how do people feel. It's what is best, what logically fits, all of that. In the spirit, she is a mother in the spirit, and she just is very merciful, sees them for who they are, and is the opposite of me. It's very funny. So even though I'm that person in the soul, she's that person in the spirit, and we're the opposite. And so anyway, I think it's important for us to kind of learn who we are in both ways, and give ourselves grace in who God has made us to be, and also distinguish between, is this who he made us to be, or who we have made ourselves to be, or nature has made us to be, you know what I'm saying, like our circumstances, other people, or the enemy. Anyway, Hazel said, before I'm like in a closet type, but now I'm learning to socialize, but there are also times that I don't associate with certain people, especially when you sense something that's creepy. Well, good. That's called discernment. I think that's good. I'll tell you, I'm not great with discernment. Everybody thinks that I would be the best with discernment of spirits and all of that. That's not one of my best gifts. I depend on other people to do that for me, because a lot of time I'm off. I have a tendency to trust people because I want to trust people. And so that's just not where I'm gifted most. I'll have people say, you are not supposed to be around them. I'm like, but there's blah, blah, blah. And I defend them all the time, just because I have an overabundance of love and grace, I guess. And not saying that those people aren't loving, but they just can see through that. And I am not gifted that way so much. So anyway, Yeah, it's funny. I've been thinking about this a lot because I know a lot of people who say, well, I won't go to that church because I always want to go and see that person's spirit before and who they are before I go there. I think that's wise and everything, but I don't function like that. So actually, my spirit does go before me, I've found out, only by people saying, hey, you visited me before you came. But I didn't know that I was doing that. I was not in the soul aware of it. And so I can't say, excuse me, that I'm far enough along to be that person yet. I just have to go, God, is this what I'm supposed to do? And that's it. I don't go and visit people's spirits in the heavenlies unless I know them and we've agreed to do that. So I don't ever intentionally go and do that with people I don't know. I don't know. I haven't felt led to do that sort of thing. So anyway, I've wondered what people think, like, aren't they seeing inside my spirit? And I'm like, I don't know. I don't do that very well. So I can discern when the Lord shows me, and I just am not naturally like that. So if I'm praying with someone, he'll often show me everything that's going on inside of them so I can minister to them. But it's not a big warning sign kind of thing. Aaron Michael, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, I love that about you. That is one, I mean, I love everything about you. But that's just one of those things that I love so much about you, because what happens a lot of the time is when people start noticing that we have the ability to do these things, they do it because we can rather than because the Lord led them to. And some people are not aware that when they're doing that, they're literally engaging in Christian witchcraft. And so yeah, that's just one of the things I love about you, that you're like, you know what, he hasn't led me to do it, so I'm not going to do it, but you have a great day. Like, and that can be really bothersome to people. They're like, what do you mean you're not going to climb up on my mountain and fight this battle for me? And it's like, well, what I mean is, if the Lord did not tell me to do it, or in fact, he said, don't you dare do that, you know? And so, yeah. And also when people do it, will like go and talk to other people's spirits and go do all these things because they're like, I really want to know that person. But it's like the Lord didn't lead them. It's like, bro, do you realize half the time you're not even talking to that person's spirit? You're talking to some weird shadow thing. So you should really not do that. But so anyway, I just like, that's one of my favorite things about you, because it's not as common as you would think it would be for people to only do things as the Lord leads them to do in the heavenly realm, which to me is like, duh, why would you do anything that he's not leading you to do, or that he's like, don't do that? Be like, well, it seems fun to me. Like, that just seems ridiculous to me. So anyway, that's that.
Well, thanks, because that's all I ever know to do. It's funny you say that, and I'm like, well, yeah, why would you ever do anything? It just doesn't make sense to me. I mean, I don't know. I'm okay with recognizing that I'm not going to be like everybody else. And I have a lot of people who say, well, this person doesn't do that. And I'm like, whoa, okay, what does that matter to me? Like, that's not me. So obviously I'm not going to be like them. And so to me, it makes sense. It just, I don't understand anybody who would go off. Now, I have done it by accident. Don't get me wrong. I have participated in Christian witchcraft by accident because I wasn't functioning with Jesus, and I should have been. And I thought, well, I just have authority, so I must do this. And so I'm sure that a lot of people are doing that by accident. I'm not trying to dog on anybody who does that. On the other hand, I don't get why people would think, well, this is really cool, so let's do that. And I have, with all the people that we teach in the intro classes, I'll tell you, a lot of people are tempted to do that. They're like, well, Christine does this, so I'm going to do this. And I just go, oh man, please just do what you're led to do. Don't let this be something that is because somebody else is doing it. And I feel like that goes back again to identity. It's still an identity thing. It's exactly about, am I supposed to do this? I remember feeling the same way about the scroll room and all of that, with the blueprints, and thinking, what's wrong with me that I can't do this? And all of that, when it turned out it's just because that's not who I am. My identity isn't to receive blueprints. And so it was good to find those things out and think it's not that I'm less than, it's that I'm different in the spirit. Go ahead, Aaron Michael.
Yeah, the other thing that I was going to say is that, like, if you are the CEO of a company, you're not going to go and jump behind the counter at Starbucks and start making coffee for people, because that's not what you do. That's not your job. And that's not that, like, it's just like that's not what you do. You're not qualified to do that. You're going to burn yourself. You're going to mix the coffee wrong. You're going to do all these things. So it's like, but people get all like, oh, I can do all things. Yes, you can. But if you're doing it through yourself, you're not doing it through him. And it says I can do all things through him, not through like me, because I'm on my way. Like, but, and then when we step into that, we end up causing all sorts of things. And I've done it too. Like, when I was driving back from California to Washington, I got really sick. I found out the reason was because I mobbed up into Oregon like, oh, I'm Aaron Michael, like, I got this. And I saw stuff in the spirit that was not right. And I was like, oh, get out of here with that mess. And it was like, oh, actually, we were given authority to be here by the people who have the authority in the land. Nobody told you to even talk to us. And so I started getting sick. And I'm like, what's going on? I'm Aaron Michael. I'm not supposed to. And finally, it was like, Lord, get this thing off me. And it was funny because he was like, right? Like, yeah, you should have been coming to me this whole time, asking me to handle this rather than trying to go flex on things that I haven't called you to do. And it's like, we forget sometimes that there's this authority where if he tells you to do it, then yeah, you do it, and anything in your way better run. But if he's not telling you to do it, we're operating in like weird things. And most of us have done it at some point, and so it's not like a thing to be like, oh, shame on you. But it's one of those things that as you mature, you start to realize, and you're like, oh, yep, sorry, nope, didn't tell me to do that. I'm not going to do that, you know.
Wow.
Also, I need to get way better at my transitions, because, like, I'll say all this stuff, and then I'm like, yep, and oh, that's that. Like, I don't know how to transition. It's so weird.
Okay, you don't have to have pretty transitions to say something worthwhile.
At the end of everything from now on, I'm just going to go like, ba-da-boom, and do like and then you'll know I'm done.
All right, there we go. Nope, I think that's real, and I think it's something that we have a tendency to struggle with as Christians, is we realize part of who we are, and then we don't realize that we should not be functioning like that on our own, even if it is who we are. We have a tendency to think that we should just do things. And if we can just be led every time instead, then we'll do everything right. And this is why, you know, I was talking to someone the other day. When we were in South Africa, my grandmother had a stroke. Many of you know that. And the person that I was with, she said, well, what do you do when something like this happens? And I said, well, generally, you know, we'll go on over their mountain and see if there's anything that's attacking. And if there is, we'll either take care of it, do what Jesus leads us to do there, or go to the courts on their behalf, or, you know, whatever it is that he's leading us. But generally it's releasing something like that and taking care of the enemy. And she goes, okay, well, have you done that? And I'm like, well, no, we just got the news, so I'll go right now and see what he wants me to do. And as I started engaging, I fully expected that to happen. But what happened instead is he led me to expand my spirit over my grandmother and just brood over her and lay next to her in her bed so she would feel my comfort there. And that was not what I was expecting, okay? I was expecting to bring her healing through dealing with the enemy or whatever, and that's not what the Lord led me to do. And so since that, I've had lots of people say, well, you know, why haven't you healed her? You have a healing mandate. Yes, I do, but I only do it when the Lord shows me, and he has not shown me to do that. And so I can't step out of I can't step outside of him because it's not going to be fruitful. Okay. So even if she did have healing, it would be short-term healing. It wouldn't be long-term healing if that happened. And so I want to do what he shows me to do. And so I kept doing that, and I was always engaging about it. You know, we would engage here. We saw certain things. She has improved over time. She finally came home just a couple days ago, which is awesome. But she's wheelchair bound as of now. She still is improving little by little, but she is still there. But in the meantime, what has also happened is this person who's really close to us, who has just dedicated her whole world to the Lord. I mean, just she goes where he says to go, all of that, but she has had very, very, very little income, living on her own for a while. And what happened through all of this is my grandma has long-term care insurance to where they will pay someone to come and stay with her and help her at $100 a day. But it can't be a family member. And so we were like, oh my goodness, who can we get to do that we can trust, you know, who can be there with her, who won't steal everything, and, you know, all of this. And we realized, wow, this would be perfect for this lady who we love so much, comes to all of our family stuff. We trust her with everything. And so we asked, now she's able to have a steady job with something that she wants to do to care for our family. And it's really good for our family because we trust her, know her, everything. And so it's just worked out perfectly. And it's something that now my grandma has someone who can stay with her that she likes, that also can kind of not only care for her needs, but care for her in the spirit, is engaging over her all the time. You know, it's just perfect. And so there are things like that I don't know how long that will last, but that very well could be why God has said not to heal her, because she would give her someone who could stay with her, to be a companion with her. And it would also give the other person such a good job that is easy to do. And anyway, it's just amazing. So it's been good. Sharon said, thanks for updating us on your grandma. I just was wondering about that situation today. Yes, it's amazing what has happened. She really has been getting a lot better, but still needs that constant care. And so I think it will be fine. I think at times my grandma's getting a little depressed at not being able to have the same capacity that she had before. But it's not as bad as it could have been. In fact, when she was in the hospital, one of her good friends had a massive stroke and died. And so I think she also, though that was really sad for her, it also gave her good perspective of how it could have been. And so she has seen the hand of God. And even when she was in the hospital, the first place that she was for 6 weeks, she saw that she made good friends with this lady who was there the whole time with her. And this lady was a missionary and very on fire for the Lord. And if you guys know anything about my family, they're not as advanced in the Lord at all. They're kind of like babies still, some. At least my grandma, she's what I would call sort of a baby Christian. You know, she has just now started really loving the Lord and not just being a sit in the pew Christian. And she started to want to do Bible study sort of stuff, where she comes from a church, they never do that sort of thing. And so anyway, just little things that she started to grow. So for her to befriend this lady who is a missionary, she was so on fire for God. She would just tell testimony after testimony of God's goodness and healing and all of these things. And you know, very heartfelt, and my grandma just loved her. And so I think that was also very instrumental, that it was something that happened where she could get an outside perspective that she never would have been able to get. So anyway, pretty encouraging.
I wanted to ask something else, but first of all, I want to say it's wonderful. It's that it's actually that verse that came true, that the Lord will work out everything for the good, for those who love them. Him, yeah. So it's wonderful, this testimony about your grandmother. If I can ask something else, I heard something, I can't remember when you said it, but it was something I know when I listen to something, and it's not really, I don't know how to explain it, but it's as if that stuck in my head. You know, I know that's for me, and what it was about a scattered soul. I don't know if I'm saying it correctly, but it sounded that some part of your soul, parts of your soul can be kept captive by the enemy, or I think you talked about people with multiple personalities or something like that, and many times that's the case. And I was wondering about that, because I know that trauma is a terrible thing, and it can cause stuff like that to happen. Can you maybe elaborate on that?
I'll do my best. I'll tell you that there are certain people here in this group who I know have a lot more experience with all that. And so if that is you, please pray about right now if you should share some of that too. But I know that I've worked with several people who have these, that their soul has split into different parts. Okay. I don't really know how to say that in a different way. They manifest in different personalities sometimes, and sometimes they're completely hidden to where they don't actually manifest at all. But this is something that I found out happened to me, and I had no idea. So I've been ministering to people with this for a long time, actually, and never understood why the Lord kept sending me people like this. Because I didn't think it was very common. And what I found out is actually it's quite common, and that it's something that most of us are not aware of. And sometimes, like with me, I didn't understand that it was, I actually don't even know the root of it. And the Lord showed me that that wasn't important for me to know the root. But it was when I was a very young child that this stayed, and I had a fear of, talking to people and letting people in. This was something that I struggled with for a long time. I felt like anything I said would be rejected, and I had just a real hard time walking outside of that and learning how to communicate love. I love very deeply. Anybody who knows me probably understands that, but you may not understand to the depths of how much I love you. This is something that's true. I love very deeply everyone. But I often don't know how to communicate that sort of thing, and I definitely don't know how to receive it. So that has been something hard for me for a long time. But the funny thing is, actually, I didn't even realize it was so hard, because I just learned to function like this. And that's how I've been for a long time. And I realized this is even why I communicate with the Lord like I do. A lot of people will talk to God about everything, you know, like, oh, blah, 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 this is happening, my life, blah, 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 this chatterboxes with the Lord. I am never like that. I barely ever say a word to him. We communicate with our hearts all the time, but I don't hear his voice. He doesn't hear my voice, because we just communicate like that. I'm sorry, I'm crying. Anyway, I've always been very happy with that. I've never felt like there was any kind of lack in our relationship. Not at all. I still don't. But I've realized that that's why I am like I am, because it's hard for me to talk. And it's hard for me to really speak about the inner parts of myself. And so, you know, you guys get to see a lot of who I am. but there's still so much more buried. There's a lot more I don't share than what I do share about my experiences with the Lord, about all sorts of things. And so when the Lord showed me that I had that kind of part of my personality, my soul that was stuck, I literally saw her as a child. He showed me that it was part of me, but she didn't know how to function. She didn't know how to talk. She didn't know. She was scared of being out and all of this. And it was as if I was engaging another person, except for what ended up happening is the part of my soul who I feel like is developed and what I've been functioning in for a long time just spoke these words to this little girl and, you know, showed how much she was loved and how important she was and how her voice meant something and all of that. And it ended up that the little girl just came inside of my soul. So it was basically enveloped in my soul to what people would say reintegrate. Okay. And so she became part of me and is now a normal functioning part of who I am. And after that happened, I actually said what I think might be actually my first words to the Lord. How weird is that? Okay, so it's so strange. I didn't even realize I wasn't talking to him because I'm always communicating with my heart. But after that, I spoke some things to the Lord and he spoke to me and I was like, wow, oh, this is a thing. And so anyway, now I can. I still don't very much just because I've learned to function otherwise. But anyway, so that happened to me. And I know that this is common for other people. A lot of times it happens at the time of trauma, whether it's when they're an adult or when they're a kid. Sometimes it kind of stunts their growth, kind of like it did with me, where I was kind of stuck in that one area as a little girl. Not knowing how to function. It can be the same if you have trauma as a young child. It can be any of that, but it can also happen multiple times. And especially if you have trauma that's ongoing, a lot of people, for instance, a lot of people who experience satanic ritual abuse, they have multiple personalities that they have to deal with because they have a lot of stuff that's been broken and different personalities kind of come out of that. This can be really hard because there can be some who are basically, I don't know how to say, overtaken by demons. And so you can have parts of your soul that are really being ruled by the demonic because of these familiar spirits that come to us. There are these familiar spirits that personality will run back to. Okay, so like for instance, I dealt with a familiar spirit for a long time of the fear of man. Okay, the spirit of fear, it was attached to the spirit of fear that used to be a real problem for me, but the fear of man is one of the spirit of fear's minions. Well, every time I would repent for having the fear of man, you know, I don't want to care what people think of me, only what you think of me, God, you know, and I would do this. And the next time someone said something bad about me, I would run back to the fear of man. And it was just a problem every time. And I recognized after a while it was a familiar spirit. It's one that, because of something that happened to me one time, then it attached to me and I thought it was part of my personality, that it's just who I am. And this is what people do. They think, this is just who I am. I'm always going to be broken. I'm always going to deal with this. And when that happens, it's a familiar spirit that you have made covenant with. And so there are parts of your soul sometimes that can be split apart that have covenant with these demons by accident or on purpose sometimes, but generally it's by accident. And so if that happens, you have to deal with that specific thing in the courts. I can't say you have to. The Lord can do all sorts of different things, but generally that's the easiest way, is to deal with it in the courts, to deal with that familiar spirit with that part of the personality. And excuse me. Anyway, I think that it's hard sometimes to deal with the different personality splits, but it is very important to become fully your eternal image, like to come in line in your soul with your eternal image. And it takes quite a bit of healing. And these things that happened in me, it took some healing, and it still is happening. You know, I realized there was a lot buried deep inside of the heart of my soul that I had no idea about. And so there are things that sometimes the Lord has to reveal, that it doesn't have to be some psychologist who is doing hypnosis, okay? Please don't participate in that. Just do me a favor. But anyway, it can be the Lord who reveals all of these things to us. We just have to put ourselves in an environment where it's safe and where we really can ask him to reveal it. And sometimes we do need people to come with us and help us through those situations. Thankfully, I had someone with me who could see in the spirit very well into these things and confirm these things with me. And so I knew I wasn't crazy. She knew she wasn't crazy. We went together and we were able to deal with these things to where now I'm way better than I was before. And so as far as I know, that's all that I have. I think there are lots of people who say, well, I don't deal with that. And I was one of them who thought I didn't deal with that. And then I was shown, actually, I do. And so, well, I did anyway, I don't know. But just be open and say, is there anything else in me that needs healing? And even if you have a spouse who deals with this, I would recommend that you do this for yourself as well. Because if you're dealing with a broken spouse and you're one and you both are struggling with the same thing, it's very possible that that stuff has happened to you as well. So just be open to the Lord and say, how can you just show me any more in me that needs this healing, this help? Do I have a problem with this? If I do, help me to deal with it in the courts or wherever he wants to deal with it. And then you'll be able to help your spouse even more. So anyway, Hazel said, I'm sorry, I'm having a little, now that I was crying a lot, I'm snotting on the inside. That's, I know it's disgusting. Just go with it, okay? This is what happens. So Hazel said, true traumas and soul wounds, but God showed me in my case that there are stuff in me that he can't just pluck it because it will damage me all the more. But articulately and delicately working on it until I'm healed. And I spent like 6 weeks doing inner healing, and from time to time just doing reruns with healing. Yes. Stephanie said, he's done deep work in me and taking me through. That's great. Myrna said, amen, bah, ha, ha, ha. Hey, she's laughing at my snotting. I know it. Anyway. Awesome. Anyone else have anything to add about this sort of thing?
Should I say something?
Sure.
I've been through like healing like the last 20 years, I think. Like the last 10 years are very intense. Hello? You can hear or no?
Yes, I can hear. I had myself on mute so I wouldn't interrupt you with ice.
Yeah, like the last 10 years have been very intense because I have gone through a satanic ritual all this. And but then God took me to a very different levels to show that, like in the spirit, he took me back to the childhood, or he woke me up in the middle of the night and he went took me through things. That's why I have this now this to see others who are going through the same. I can see like inside, like what has happened to them, or why they need deliverance from. Because I had a lot of maybe still having, but it's been a 10 years very intense journey. And from a lot of rage and hurt and pain and a lot of stuff. I tried to survive all my life on my own and just to be strong. And then 10 years ago, God brought me back to Finland and he said, you are going to stop working and I'm just going to take all your own power away. And that's why I haven't been working. And I have been just at home for 10 years.
Wow.
Just going through like at the same time when I got healed, and he gives me people one after another, everybody who's been sexually abused and traumatized, or children home, or with the same backgrounds. They're all coming to my house. And sometimes I'm like, this is too much for me. Like, God, I can't handle this. Why me? And then he said, these are my little ones. I'm going to heal them here. And that's why the anointing at this home has been very tremendous. Same like with Martin. The other day, he's also been in children's homes, and he's been, like, he talks about murdering. Suddenly he was saying, I'm going to murder somebody, and then I go to prison. And then he told me that his father murdered, that his sister was raped, and his father murdered, like, killed the guy who raped his sister. And then I understood that he has it also in the spirit. Because a few times I got scared. But then, because my father has been like that, and I have it also, like, I had to fight with it sometimes myself. And then I had the authority to break it. Mm-hmm. It's a miracle how he changed in the last 2 days. Just because we've been praying and praying and going in the spirit. And I actually went on the mountain for him. And so it was becoming white.
Yay, that's awesome. Cool. Well, thank you, Stephanie. I appreciate it. That's good. Hazel said, you're awesome, Steph. You're just like a home for the people that the Father loved. You're like a hospital for them. And with all your hospitality, your ministry is way so unique. Awesome.
I have sometimes 2 or 3 girls sleeping here.
Say that again.
At the moment, it's only Shaska and Martin being here. But there was times there was 2 or 3 sleeping here. And then the anointing was like very heavy that even me, I was just like, whoa. But there's always been people coming and going, and they have a safe place. And even now when I went, like when I'm going, there's another girl from Estonia who's very fragile. Mm-hmm. And she's doing flagging, and she's very prophetic, but she has no home. And she just goes, and stays wherever God opens for her. But she's very fragile, very broken. And then God showed me that she's gonna, when I go to Greece, that she's to bring her here, and then she's gonna take care of my cat. And then I saw like her and the cat and angels coming over her and healing her here, because she doesn't let anybody coming near to her, like to pray for her or to she's been beaten up. She told me a few things, which is already like pretty bad, and so God is gonna deal with her alone here.
Wow. That's crazy. Well, I'm glad you're doing it.
It's not easy. I'm sometimes like, it's hard. It's actually very hard. Huh?
Yes. Laurel, I saw you raising your hand. Go ahead.
Okay, this is me getting butt naked and real here. That's the only way to be, right? But I got to stick out my trust somewhere. 3 years ago, we had an unexpected, I call it the big horrible, and it was a terrible trauma. And our son is a soldier who came back severely, both physically and mentally, and actually murdered his wife. And when I had it happened, I screamed, but someone inside did, and just kept on screaming. And I haven't been, and I'm trying to come out of it, and I don't know how. And I can't, my eyes don't open like they should. Vision problems now, if it's nerves or what, but I can sure use that.
Well,
he's in prison. We go to him. We love him. And we know that it wasn't him, what was wrong with him. But all the knowledge I have, with all the things I know, all the relationship I have with God, I haven't, I think I fractured, and I haven't been able to overcome.
Well, do you think that that you had this fracture happen at that time? Or do you think that was really what happened to him? Was it both of you that happened? You know, even though he was the one who did all this, you went through it just as much, you know? I don't know. Well, I know that you need healing from that, and that the Lord seriously can bring you healing, will bring you healing. I can't even say he can, because I know he will. Because he will use everything the enemy meant for evil and turn it back for your good and his glory. I know that. He's done it every time with me, and I know that he will do it every time with you. And I know you know that in your mind, but that stuff has to transfer to your heart. It has to transfer to that place that can receive healing from him. Because you're right, it can damage every part of you. And sometimes we just need to completely rest in him in order to be able to receive that complete healing that we need. And so if you want to, I would love if you would come and make an appointment with me or with Robert. I think that would be really good. And so if I know that we asked for a giving to go toward that. If you can't, just let me know. We'll give you a code, so you can do it anyway. But I think it would be really good for you to have someone go with you to try to receive some of that healing from the Lord. And it might take more than one session, but that's okay. Anyway, feel free to do that. And it is good that you're being open about it, because that will bring healing. When you bring stuff to the light is when the Lord can work it out. It's when you're trying to deal with it by yourself in the dark that it's not going to happen. So.
When you have a court case that goes on for years, you can't talk to people about it.
Yeah.
You can't. And so I'm able to do any of that.
Yeah.
And thank you. Thank you for what you said. And thank you, everyone, for I don't know. I just feel like this is a loving group. It's people who care, who love. Wounded warriors. Yeah.
That's true.
Thank you.
Yes, we love you very much. Well, how about we don't have a lot more time, I guess. We've spent a good time today. I feel like some good stuff came out. But let's engage together and see what the Lord does with us today, okay? We might go a few minutes past. Myrna, go ahead.
Hi. Can I ask for prayer for Arya, please?
Sure. What's going on? Is there anything specific that we can pray for? Are you okay?
Yeah. Yeah, she hasn't been feeling well for the last month. I've been actually praying for her. She's going like up and down, up and down. She lost a lot of weight. And last night, this morning, I wake up with a dream that she's got spots, so many spots, white ones on her chest. And her bottom is really red or infected or something like that inside. And the Lord was showing me, but I don't know what to do with it, so I need help.
Okay, sure. And Arya, can you tell everyone how old she is? Is she 6? Is that right?
5.
Okay. Well, we will pray over her. Absolutely. I'm sorry. All right, well, let's just engage together. I'm going to stop my video right now. Please, everybody, if there's anything you see about any of this stuff, just please put it in the chat box, okay? Hazel said, while Myrna is sharing, I hear witchcraft. Well, the good news about witchcraft is that it's easy to cut off because that means there's no legal right. So that means we can just go to war for it and see that stuff taken out, swept off your mountain, swept off of her, and the blessings of God released. So let's just engage over that. Jesus, we want to step in with you. We ask that you cover this entire experience with your blood. Wow, immediately I just saw Aria being covered in his blood. And it was just wiping all over her. But it's like it wasn't keeping her red, you know, it just, as the blood washed over, it turned into living water and was just washing her clean in her body. And in her soul. I think she's really worn down by this. Thank you. Hazel, I just want to say that I think you're right about the witchcraft. I see these arrows being shot up your mountain at her and actually you. And so right now we just say that you have no power here in this family or on this mountain, and that you must step off, get out. In fact, we ask that you turn those arrows right back around and shoot them back toward your leader. And right now I see the Hebrew living letters just coming across the atmosphere of your mountain, almost like you see typewriter just coming across. And anyway, it's coming right across and overwhelming the atmosphere of your mountain. Thank you, Lord. Hazel said, yeah, I'm also seeing thorns or thorn bushes. We cleanse their family mountains. Yes, Lord. And Laurel, I just saw you. You are laying in front of your throne, and there was this light snow that was coming down, and you're just kind of laying in the snow that's coming, and it's a cleansing snow, not a bad sort of snow. It feels good on your skin. And Jesus is just sitting there right next to you. And I keep seeing him checking it's like he will hold your hand for a little bit and check something and then put it down, and then he'll do that every so often. So I don't know what he's checking, but we trust him with that. Darlene said, I saw a baby all wrapped in swaddling type material, stuck in a cradle hanging on a wall for Aria. It seems to mean she needs to be unwrapped from this. Thank you, Lord. And then Hazel said, or like a thistle that's causing the allergic reaction. We uproot the thorns and thistle to be cast down into pits of abyss and declare healing upon Aria. And then Darlene says we unwrap Arya in Yeshua's name. Do you agree, Myrna? Big yes. Ooh. I just felt all sorts of presence come over me. Usually that means there are angels at work. Thank you, Lord. Fair says, I see a battle. There's a dragon that's vomiting on someone. Angels are now fighting the dragon. Darlene said, sorry, it wasn't a cradle. It was a native stipe thing that hung on the back. Oh. I just saw, in relation to what Fair was saying, she said she sees a battle. There's a dragon that's vomiting on someone. Angels are now fighting the dragon. Fair said, an angel has pierced the dragon. I hear victory. Right before you said that, I saw the Father come in the dark cloud and just, it's like wiped out what the enemy was doing just by his presence. And it was really powerful to see. Thank you, Lord. Hazel said, I saw her. She stepped into like a territory like familiar spirits while playing. We claim their household as theirs, cleansed by the blood of Jesus. And we cast down, tear, and destroy the works of the devil upon Myrna's family. We command the hosts of angels to battle and claiming victory in Jesus' name. Fair says, now a cleansing is occurring. Jesus' blood is cleansing the area. Trauma someone has experienced. Myrna says, thank you, Lord, for cleansing. We receive it all. Thank you, Lord. Okay, I'm posting a song here for everyone. It's a YouTube link. I specifically think there are certain people here who need to listen to this. It's called Come Rest by Considering Lily. So anyway, if you will listen to this, the Lord was telling me I needed to get this song for you pulled up. So I would play it now, but I think it wouldn't come across the speakers well. So anyway, just listen to that. We dedicate all of this to you, Jesus, and we are so thankful that you will come and bring healing to all of us who need it. And we invite, Holy Spirit, we invite the angels and the saints, all of the cloud to come, the seven spirits. We invite you all to continue this work in our lives, so we will not be let down or given up on this. And so we just invite you all to come and continue this work, even as we go away from each other in the physical. We know that we're with you in the spirit. And so thank you for this. We love you so much, and we just invite this continued work. Thank you, Lord. Amen. Hazel said, I'm seeing a whirlwind cleansing and picking debris and worn leaves, swiping the area. What the devil had planted will be uprooted and broken down in Jesus' name. Fair said, I don't mean to offend, but there's a bloodline issue for someone, deep roots of witchcraft and family. I see an angel taking a sword to the roots. Thank you, Lord. Darlene says, the video is unavailable. Okay, let me try this again and see what happens. Nope, it's working for me. I clicked on the link too that I posted. So try that again because it's working perfectly for me. Darlene said, yes, I heard swords clanging in battle. Thank you, Lord. Yes. Well, I love you guys. I need to get going, but we do just invite this work to continue. So hopefully that link will help. And by the way, Darlene, here you go. If this is helpful for the video, this is called Come Rest by Considering Lily. So hopefully that's helpful if you want to look that up. Okay, love you guys. Have a great day, great night, whatever it is for you. And we will see you next week. Okay? All right. Bye-bye.